Hey, it's me, Riker. Today we're going to have a look at the brand new hero, Fane, the Wicked Warden. Now, as you can see, these are his animations in battle. He's a Graveborn that wears agility-based gear. His role is to provide support, and his primary attribute to your allies will be providing debuffs for the enemies and control for your allies. Now his ultimate skill, Malign Judgment. Fane uses chains to restrict the enemy with the highest attack rating. During the following 5 seconds, the restricted enemy loses health equal to 120% of Fane's attack rating every second, and cannot move or use skills. If the control effect prematurely ends, the enemy will be immediately dealt damage one time that is equal to 310% of Fane's attack rating, which ignores all of the enemy's defense rating. If a bone prism exists on the battlefield, its duration will be increased by 5 seconds. So it lasts for 5 seconds, and this will be all the way to another 10 seconds. When the control effect prematurely ends, the enemy will be immediately dealt damage one time that is equal to 410% of Fane's attack rating. The level 3, enemies cannot recover health or energy while restricted by chains. So his normal abilities: Prisoner of Despair. Fane summons a Bone Prism. So this ties in with his ultimate, signature item, and his furniture. On the enemy side of the battlefield, that exists for 30 seconds. Enemies that leave the Bone Prism lose 2% of their max health every second, but shall not lose more than 150% of Fane's attack rating. Enemies within their Bone Prism have their energy recovery reduced by 25%. The level 2, enemies outside the Bone Prism also lose 15 haste points. The level 3, enemies within the Bone Prism have their energy recovery reduced by 40%. So this is increased from 25 all the way to 40. And level 4, Bone Prism exists for 35 seconds. So his next ability, Soul Impaler. An enemy outside the Bone Prism is pulled inside of it and dealt damage equal to 5% of their max health, and cannot move for 2 seconds. Damage dealt to the enemy cannot exceed 250% of Fane's attack rating. The level 2, enemies is dealt damage equal to 8% of their max health, and damage cannot exceed 400% of Fane's attack rating. The level 3, enemies cannot move for the following 3 seconds. And the level 30 Engravings. Each time you successfully impale an enemy, the Unscrupulous Jailer skill is immediately reset. So that is this ability over here. So the Unscrupulous Jailer, gigantic rolling logs hurtle towards their enemies within the Bone Prism. While the logs are rolling, nearby enemies are dealt damage equal to 100% of Fane's attack rating and are also knocked backwards. Damage can be dealt up to 5 times to the same enemy. 65% of each strike shall be divided equally between Fane and his most injured ally, and returned to them both as health. If there are no other allies, the full amount will be returned to Fane as health. Damage dealt is increased to 110%, up from 100. And the level 3, damage is increased all the way to 120, up from 100%. And the level 60 Engravings is enemies struck by the rolling logs are terrified for 4 seconds. Now his signature item. Each time an ally enters or leaves the Bone Prism, they are granted a shield equal to 250% of Fane's attack rating that exists for 5 seconds. This effect can be triggered once every 8 seconds. The level 10 signature item. Each time an ally enters the Bone Prism, the shield value, they are granted a shield equal to 320%, up from 250% of Fane's attack rating. The level 20, When entering or leaving the bone prism, the majority of enemies' buffs are removed. The level 30. For every 8 seconds, the enemy is in the bone prism. Crit amplification is permanently reduced by 6 points, and crit damage resistance is permanently reduced by 6 points. This effect can stack 5 times. So this is a total of 30 secondary stats for both of these: crit amplification and crit damage resistance. Now his furniture. The 3 furniture, duration of the bone prism is increased by 5 seconds for every enemy that dies within it. Fane receives 10% less damage for each enemy within his bone prism. So if there are 5 enemies within this bone prism, there's a total of 50% damage reduction. In addition, this duration is extended. So this is Prisoner of Despair. So its base duration is 30 seconds. This is increased from his furniture by additional 5 seconds for each enemy that dies within it. And in addition to this, if an enemy is chained, this duration is further extended by another 5 seconds. So in total, this can reach up to 50 seconds of the entire battle that enemies are stuck within this bone prism. Now let's have a look at how he works in battle. Now, one of the teams that he'll work extremely well in is any team that essentially can push enemies into their half. Now, Fane likes fighting in invade-like teams. So as we can see here, he summons his bone prism. There's the rolling logs rolling across the field and knocking the enemies back. Now as you can see, that is his rolling logs again. Now let's have a look at his ultimate ability. There we go. He uses his ultimate ability, and that was the chain around the caster hero. There we go, more rolling logs. As you can see, this lasts only for a duration of the battle. So it is best to have a burst team that likes to invade enemies in their half for him to work effectively. So there we go, another chain. And this chain is extended, duration is extended, the more enemies that die within the bone prism. Now let's have a look at him in battle. Alright, so let's set up a team for him. Okay. So as you can see, there's the bone prism. And if an enemy tries to escape, they will be debuffed with the various effects that he has. Now, he doesn't do a significant amount of damage. However, he provides a significant amount of control for your allies, such that they can easily, essentially, nuke their enemies within the duration that the bone prism lasts, as bone prism provides a significant amount of control, such as stuns, knockbacks, haste reduction, and various other effects. Now, as you can see here, he did not do the most amount of healing. He did a bit of healing. However, his primary role is his control and debuffs that he provides. Now let's have a look at higher deficits and how he will work in these various teams. Now from this battle, you can see that he immediately sets up his bone prism on the enemy side of the battlefield. And now he is immediately pushing the enemies back, so he'll work extremely well with heroes such as Screg in this case. As you can see, the Screg is in the enemy half. He's providing a significant amount of buffs for his allies, for Tresnor and himself, as both Screg and Tresnor have a lot of damage reduction and energy. And as you can see, the enemies are permanently controlled and cannot use any of their abilities. In addition to this, you can see that the enemies are not gaining a lot of energy. Most of the energy bars of the enemies are remaining at 0 due to all of the buffs and debuffs that the entire team is providing. There we go. Another victory. So let's have a look at the numbers. As you can see, he did provide a significant amount of healing, even though his primary role is not healing when compared to heroes like Mortis. And he does provide a bit of damage for your allies. Now let's have a look at another team. So let's have a look at this team. Now as you can see, he summons his Bone Prism immediately, followed up by his Rolling Logs, which knock back enemies. This provides extreme control-based effect for his allies. And this allows Raku to essentially deal a significant amount of damage to the enemies. Now, as the enemies are permanently controlled, Raku can keep on dealing a significant amount of damage to the enemies. And the enemies are slowly getting killed by the damage and all the abilities that we have. And as you can see, the enemies are not even able to move out of this Bone Prism and are permanently stuck in this area. There we go, another victory. So let's have a look at the combat log. So as we can see, he provided all the healing to his allies. In addition to that, himself, Leonardo da Vinci, and Prince of Persia provided all the control needed for Raku to deal damage using his abilities. So I see him as a viable control-based hero in invade-like teams with heroes such as Screg, Kren, and various other heroes that have a significant amount of control for your team. If you liked the video, like, comment, and subscribe.